But Olivia Beavers is with Politico. I've been talking about Politico all morning, Olivia. The Burgess Everett story on the supplemental that the Senate is insanely going to send to the House where it will be defeated. Any additional reporting on? I mean, it's the dumbest bill I've ever heard of. They don't fund the wall. It's just so
Well,
stupid. What's any update on that?
well, first, I wanted to point out I don't think Burgess reports that they don't have money for the wall. So that's you breaking some news actually on your show through your conversations with senators. But they are basically saying that Speaker Johnson is publicly and privately saying that this is a no go for him. He's been sort of making HR 2 his red line. I've talked to enough Republicans that they don't think that that's actually the hard line. That's just a negotiating tactic. But we're about to find out as soon as the Senate sends their deal because, Republicans are pushing for the wall. And you might find a classic clash of the two chambers.
I just had David Joyce on, and David's my home congressman. He's from Warren, Ohio. He's a pal. After we got over moaning about the Browns losing, he tells me he's got $2 billion for wall construction and the authorization to proceed and get it done in 2024 in House 2. It's not in the supplemental. And so I think they had to send that back over to the Senate so fast. And I'm a moderate on the border. Olivia, do you hear this from every Republican you talk to in the House? No border wall, no deal?
Not every Republican, there will be some who will say their argument is for whatever immigration authorities say is the best technology or infrastructure in terms of deterring. In some areas, they'll say that would mean a wall. In some areas, it would be some sort of other form of deterrent. But for the most part, I mean, you can see Republicans, even some of the centrists who are becoming very, very vocal about the border heading into the election, as including talking about impeaching Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas. So that's sort of a sign that the party is collectively coming together to believe this is a problem. As for how far they'll push, they're on slightly different levels in the Republican Party.
I want to point out to people the southwestern border from California to the Gulf of Mexico is 2,000 miles long. The border wall proposed by Republicans is 900 miles long because 1,100 miles is impassable. And so it's not the Great Wall of China, and it's not anti technology, and it's pro border patrol and detention facilities, but no wall, no deal. And I think that puts Israel and Ukraine funding at risk, which makes me crazy, but they're all national security issues. Olivia, I want to ask you, do you have latest numbers on how many terror watch list people have been arrested in December and January? It was 165 in fiscal year 23, but we don't have November and December numbers yet.
Not off the top of my head, no. I don't think I've seen those. But I know that that's becoming a growing problem. You were talking about the fentanyl crisis earlier on your show, and that's also something that's expanding. So we know that there's an element of crime. We know there's an element of drug and public health and safety, which is why the border is talked about. But the other element also is we're in a presidential election year too. So if you see the Senate Republicans and the House Republicans duking it out, you're probably going to be having people who are campaigning, like Donald Trump, Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, weighing in, which might also add another element of complicating how this discussion goes.
I think you're right. I think the Senate is going to blow up the 2024 campaign if they send this over without a wall. Let me close by asking you about your reaction. Ted Cruz endorsed Donald Trump this morning. I expect more congressmen and senators to endorse this week and then before South Carolina in an effort to make this over by 224. What do you hear about additional endorsements?
I think they're expecting to see quite a few endorsements. And my colleague Burgess, who you mentioned earlier, we were asking Republicans this. Some were saying we want to wait to see how Iowa goes, so we know that that was sort of, um, you know, a green light for them after seeing Donald Trump exceed in the first caucus state. But I've also heard from Trump allies that some of them are actually kind of watching, gauging, maybe even keeping a list of who endorsed Donald Trump pre-Iowa and who's endorsing him post-Iowa, in a sign of where their loyalty was and what the timing was like before it was, the ball was rolling and him
That
taking
might
off in
be
the
the case,
presidential.
but when you talk about the pros like Susie Wiles and Chris LaCivita, they just want to win. they're not those people. They just want to win. They'll take the endorsements. I mean,
there's more allies than his campaign infrastructure.
yeah.
They like to keep tallies on that sort of thing.
There's some intern somewhere with a Nixon's enemy list. It's not a good idea to ever keep an enemies list. It's good to keep a friends list, like Olivia Beavers is a friend of the show. Follow her on X, on Twitter. Happy New Year to you, Olivia. It's always great to see you. I look forward to an exciting 2024. I appreciate your taking the time. Good morning to you.